Hey Astro Kids, and welcome back. So, we have a lot to talk about. This is the horoscope for 2020, and we're going to do it in two parts. This is the first part going from January to July. And first, I want to start out by just making a few announcements. So, just so everyone knows, and so that you all remember, we are doing a 1,000 subscriber special. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure to go in the comments and type loyal fan. Also, I'm having a Black Friday special. So if you are interested in a tarot or oracle card reading, I'm doing 15-minute sessions for $5. And if you would like to share your Mercury retrograde experiences, go below in the comments and feel free. Also, if you enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like. If you're new to this channel, this is your first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any new content. And feel free to share this with a friend. So, on the right of me, you see some of the major things that we're going to go through in this video. And this is starting, and if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes. This is starting on January 10th. And there's a lot of different things happening during 2020. I'm not going to go over every single thing. These are the major transits. So starting January 10th, there is going to be a full moon prenumbral lunar eclipse in Cancer at 20 degrees. So we saw this year, 2019, we saw a partial lunar eclipse in Cancer. But this is a full-on prenumbral lunar eclipse. So there's something very powerful about this eclipse. It is in Cancer, so this theme of nurturing and care and what we are divinely connected to, this home connection, continues. And this is something that's really taking us into 2020, as it is a number 22 year, master number 22, the master builder. So what are we creating? What are we building that is connected to home? And 4, that is 22 breaks down to the number 4, which is dealing with the home and the surroundings and security. And so there's something definitely about the year of 2020 that is about what is destined and what are we connected to as far as what is home. What is home as in our hearts, right? The home is where the heart is. So there's something about where are we putting our hearts at? What are we connecting to on a spiritual divine level, on an emotional level? And so this whole theme of that continues, and we see this massive full moon prenumbral lunar eclipse where it's really going to open up this connection to what is home, what is divine. And this sort of starts in December 2019 with this eclipse that we have in December. And so this takes us in to January. We're still going to be in this eclipse season from December to January. And it does close out later on with a new moon in Aquarius on January 24th. So even though we like to say the end of it will be at that lunar eclipse spot because that's the release, the full moon is the release, but a lot of that energy doesn't necessarily close out completely until this new moon in Aquarius that will be at 4 degrees on January 24th. And that new moon is going to start a new cycle. So that will be the complete close of that eclipse season that we're going to be in. And there's something about that new moon in Aquarius where we are going to see a lot of this energy that is about accessing, almost, I want to say, it feels like accessing into a new dimension. It really is pushing us to advance and moving us into this new space. And we'll see that a lot with the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius that happens later on in 2020, of this higher connection, definitely shifting in energy, shifting in perspective, taking us to this new, exciting, more divine space. And so there's something about a higher frequency, a higher dimension, this very powerful shift in energy. And we're seeing this connection to all of the collective with Aquarius. There's something about Aquarius that is about, yes, it's about individuality and being unique, but it's also about friendships, unity. And so there is something about this spiritual evolution that is going to bring a lot of people together, lots of groups of people resonating on the same conscious level. Now, before that, on January 10th also, we do have Uranus stationing direct at 2 degrees. So Uranus has been retrograde for quite a while now, since the spring of 2019, and it does not station direct until January 10th of 2020. And so that is where we'll see a lot of these sort of strange energies start to close. There's something about this Uranus retrograde that we're in right now that is bringing in a lot of unexpected events, a lot of things not really happening in your favor, a lot of weird coincidences. And this is all about, remember, Uranus is at fall in Taurus. And so it is about sort of coming into your values and into your security, and sort of coming out of this more liberating, this more unifying space of where Uranus likes to be. So now we're having to deal with what are our values, what really makes us secure, what are the things that we're really going to put our love and our energy and our focus into. And so Uranus is liberating us from anything that is not on a value level that is in sync with who we are. And so essentially all of these unexpected events, all of these things happening that don't necessarily make sense, things happening out of place, little weird coincidences, definitely are trying to give us signs about what is on our value system. And so for a lot of people, if you're seeing a lot of people sort of losing jobs, getting in situations that they hadn't planned for, a lot of these different little events that are definitely pushing you into a space that is of more value to who you are. And so this comes direct on January 10th, where we start to move closer and closer to this space of destiny, right? This is what 2020 is about, is moving into what is destined, what is home for us. And so there is going to be sort of this freedom, this liberation that comes from Uranus coming direct, where you'll definitely see yourself in a space of values, of what you believe in, things starting to become more clear, things starting to make more sense. And after that, on January 12th, we see this big Saturn-Pluto conjunction that we've been waiting for at 22 degrees. And so there is something about this energy of Pluto and Saturn and Capricorn that's been building and building and building. And finally, on January 12th, we have this conjunction. And there definitely is something about Saturn and Pluto being in a place of power in Capricorn. But with the South Node, it's definitely looking at these old attachments, these old situations in our lives that need to be removed. And with Saturn there, it's definitely looking at places that restrict us, things that sort of put chains around us, these old belief systems, these old values, these old situations, and Pluto there being of this transformation of really needing to break down the old of what no longer serves you. And so when these two come together at this conjunction point, this is very powerful. This is a destined, fated conjunction of really the ultimate breakdown and the ultimate reconstruction of what your life is destined to look like. So this is a major transformation. This is a major breakdown. This is a major shift and a major time of looking at what really is of value to you. And that's why really this Scorpio season and this Mercury retrograde through Scorpio and this build up to Capricorn has really been about going in and looking at the things that don't make sense in your life, the things that don't hold value, the things that don't serve you any longer, and really starting to make the changes and the improvements, because it is leading us to this destined spot for us of something that can truly be magical. Now, there is something about this energy where if you have not done the work, if you're still sort of staying back in these old cycles and patterns, this does make things more difficult. There is something where Saturn and Pluto are very malefic, and they are in Capricorn where we have to sort of go through the practical means of making these achievements happen. So the less work that you do, the more difficult and the more challenging this transit will be for you. So there is something about right now where it is a time to start making changes and decisions and looking at the parts of your life that don't serve you and starting to implement things into your life that do serve you, so that when you get to this space of this Saturn-Pluto conjunction, this does actually help you achieve something great in your life. Now, we talked about the new moon on January 24th. The next thing I want to talk about is on February 15th, we see a semi-sextile between Uranus and Chiron at 3 degrees. And this energy is definitely something that we have gone through in 2019 with this Uranus retrograde in Taurus and this Chiron retrograde, which is coming direct very soon in December. This Chiron retrograde in Aries, of really this destruction of what we believe our identity is. And so there is something about the ego that is falling, that is diminishing in this process of taking another look at what really values you and really implementing the things that do value you. And we see this very strongly with this Uranus semi-sextile Chiron of definitely doing things that connect to who you truly are, because this Chiron in Aries is the ultimate death of the ego. And with this pairing of Uranus and Taurus, it is sort of opening the doorway to, okay, what is of value to not the ego but the soul. And so this does put us into a space of really tapping into our soul and what our soul really desires, and again, allowing the ego to fall away. Now, the next day, February 16th, is the first Mercury retrograde of the year. It is in Pisces at 12 degrees. So, this is in the earlier degrees of Pisces, so it will go back into Aquarius, where Mercury is a little bit more comfortable in Aquarius. So, this won't necessarily be as intense as the Mercury retrograde in Pisces that we had earlier in 2019. But still, we see Mercury in its detriment in Pisces. Mercury's a little lost, a little confused in Pisces, as Mercury's trying to come up with answers and really find out the details and the information. And in Pisces, we're sort of in this spiritual, magical space of belief and imagination. And so, this is where Mercury really gets lost. This is where Mercury is sort of in this mysterious place of not really knowing all the answers or the details. And so this can be a time where a lot of people are feeling a little bit lost, a little bit confused, really not knowing what's going on. And it is going to be a time of really discerning and really looking at what is magical, what is divine in your life, and what is just an illusion, what are just the stories that we're telling ourselves. And so that is definitely going to be something to look at with this Mercury retrograde. And on February 20th, we have a Jupiter sextile Neptune. Now, we've had this Jupiter sextile Neptune in 2019. This time, however, Jupiter will be in Capricorn. So this is a little different, and we do see this Jupiter in Capricorn start off this year, 2019, on December 2nd. So this shift of Jupiter from its home sign to Capricorn, which is its fall position. So Jupiter is very weak in Capricorn. Jupiter, this planet that wants to be benefic and wants to hope and believe and have faith and go for opportunities, is in Capricorn, where it has to go through the practical hard work of really climbing to the top of success and achievements and status. And so Jupiter is very weakened in Capricorn. And so there's something about this sextile that's different. Here, Neptune is actually stronger this time. And so this sextile definitely is opening up more of possibility and opportunity, as Neptune's pouring in and is saying that I have the magic, I have the hope, the belief that this is possible. And Jupiter is there saying there's work that needs to be done to make this opportunity possible. So definitely this is a time where sort of the opportunities start to close in. A lot of these magical opportunities, these moments that come from hoping and wishing, are not necessarily there anymore. This is a time where you definitely need to do the work to get the results. And this is something that we always see with this energy ultimately all the time, is you have to do the work. But we have these moments where we do get these magical opportunities and doorways coming in, and this is not one of those moments. Jupiter in Capricorn is saying to Neptune in Pisces, no, we have to do the work, we have to climb the ladder to success, we have to do it the traditional way. There's no magical answers coming in. And on March 4th, Mercury retrograde moves back into Aquarius. And so this takes sort of a weight off of us for a little bit. This is definitely a place where Mercury feels more comfortable in Aquarius. Mercury loves being in Aquarius because Aquarius has the knowledge, the information, the new ideas, the innovation. And so Mercury is very much comfortable here in Aquarius. So Mercury gets a little bit of a break from being in this sort of faraway, magical, spiritual land of Pisces. And this is where you may see some clarity coming back in. This is still Mercury retrograde, so you'll still have some things to review, some things to look over, but it won't be as intense. You won't feel as lost or confused in, again, that magical spiritual land of Pisces. And so then we move on to March 9th, where Mercury comes direct. So we finally come out of that first Mercury retrograde of the year. And on March 19th, we see Uranus sextile the North Node. And this Uranus sextiling the North Node is the last time that we see Uranus interacting with the North Node in Cancer. As later on in the spring, we are going to see the nodes shift. We're going to see the North Node move into Gemini. So this is the last time we're seeing Uranus interacting with the North Node in this sextile. And there's something about this where the North Node is in Cancer and Uranus is in Taurus. And there is a connection between Cancer and Taurus about the home and about security and what feels safe and comfortable and feels secure, and what really serves us, at where the benefits really lie, where the values really lie, and what is really destined and fated, and what is the true emotional, spiritual connection in our lives. So that's a big moment of sort of rechecking the boxes of what really serves us and what doesn't. And on March 21st is where we see Saturn enter Aquarius. And it's going to spend a little bit of time in Aquarius. It will retrograde back into Capricorn. And then we will actually see later on a Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in Aquarius towards the end of the year. So we do close 2020 with Jupiter and Saturn in the sign of Aquarius. And again, as I mentioned before, there's something about this that is taking us to a whole new level. It is like a whole new dimension opening up. Very futuristic, very much taking us to this next chapter in our lives of what is divine, what is truly spiritual, what is the future going to look like, there's something about the collective and this conscious resonance of different various groups of people coming together in unity, and what is this all going to look like. And so we're moving into that space, into that new space, that new frequency. But with Saturn in Aquarius, it's interesting because Saturn is very constricted, very much about rules and boundaries. And Aquarius being the rebel, we see sort of this difference between them. However, we do have to keep in mind that Saturn is the traditional ruler of Aquarius. So Saturn is very comfortable here. Now, there's something different about Saturn being in Aquarius versus being in Capricorn. This is where we start to see this very different, very futuristic, open-minded kind of vibe of what is the next level of spiritual wisdom. What does the next story of what is truly divine and what is truly in sync with all of us on a massive collective scale, and moving into this new space, this new dimension, this new frequency of what it is all going to look like. And so there's something about this that is about true connection, about true friendship, about this true age of Aquarius experience of this wave of information and this divine spiritual movement, this rise up from the old ways of doing things. So this is very new, this is very fresh, this is the new connection to what is truly divine. We're sort of moving out of these old traditional systems and ways of doing things and into a new discipline, a new rule, a new order. And on April 4th, we have a Jupiter conjunction with Pluto. So this is going to be interesting because Jupiter is this benefic planet that is trying to open up doorways for you. And Pluto, very malefic, very much about the death and the rebirth. So going through this process of destruction, of breaking down, of the old which no longer serves you, especially here in Capricorn. But there's something about how Pluto is very strong here and Jupiter is weakened here in Capricorn. So there's something about this little tiny planet that's not even considered a planet, it's so small, that is actually in a more powerful position than this massive gas giant. And so there's something here to say about this energy that is saying we have to go through some kind of death in order to open up doorways. We have to be willing to leave behind something in the past in order to move to this new destined space that we are trying to get to. These new doorways opening, these new possibilities, these new positive experiences. And as I had mentioned before, there's something about this energy where with that sextile to Neptune, yes, it is magical, it is opening up possibilities to you. However, there's something about this where you have to do the work, you have to go through the darkness, you have to go through the traditional steps of pushing through the obstacles and moving up the ladder for this. And that's very evident with Pluto, which is very dark, very intense, that we have to go through this transformation of stepping into our power to claim these open doorways, because Jupiter in Capricorn is really a doorway to achievement. Jupiter in Capricorn is still, Jupiter is always going to be benefic. It's always going to open up doorways for you. It's a little more challenging in Capricorn though, because there is this element of needing to do some kind of practical work to climb the ladder to that achievement. So we're still dealing with benefic energy. There's just something about this where you have to go through the process of doing the intense work of going through the transformation, going through the struggle, the obstacles to get to the other side. Now on April 25th, we have Pluto in retrograde at 24 degrees. And so this is something that we experienced throughout 2019. This is a little different because remember, we are in a conjunction now with Jupiter. So this retrograde is literally coming off of a Jupiter conjunction where things are a little bit more positive. Things are a little bit more benefic. There's a little bit more of an opportunity here as we go through this Pluto retrograde. But really, this is a reflection time of looking at where do the changes need to take place. And so we did a lot of change. We did a lot of work in 2019. But when we get to this point in April of 2020, this is asking us to review things again, of looking at, okay, is there anything else that I need to leave behind? Is there anything else that needs to fall apart, that I need to detach myself from in order to move forward into these new doorways, these new opportunities in life? So this Pluto retrograde will definitely be an opportunity to look at sort of these things that you may be attached to, or you may be addicted to, or chained to, these experiences that need to be released. This is about change. Pluto dealing with death and rebirth. So taking a look at, during this retrograde, the things that in your life that need to die. And that takes us to May 5th, where we see the change in nodes. So on May 5th, the North Node enters Gemini, and of course, as the polar opposite, the South Node enters Sagittarius. And this is where our destiny and where we're going and what we need to learn is changing up a little bit. So all throughout 2019, we talked about this North Node in Cancer, South Node in Capricorn, of needing to let go of old patterns, old systems, old structures, old belief systems that no longer serve us, and moving into this home space of what is destined, of what is the highest spiritual, emotional connection, and of what truly serves us on the highest level. And as we have moved into that space, now we are starting to make room for opportunities, because now we have done the work of aligning ourselves with what is destined, of what is fated, of what serves us, of what is a true divine emotional connection. And so now we know what home for us looks like. Now we know what destiny for us looks like. So now it's time to take that on with this North Node in Gemini. This North Node in Gemini is creating room for opportunities, room for learning, room for knowledge, for growth. And there's something about the South Node in Sagittarius still being about leaving behind old belief systems. There is something about Sagittarius where, yes, Sagittarius deals with open doorways like Gemini, but Sagittarius is dealing with what we believe in. It's dealing with faith. It's dealing with hope. And there's something about these old philosophies, these old belief systems that we have stood by, that this South Node is asking us to leave behind. And this North Node in Gemini is giving us an opportunity to step into new social connections, into new knowledge, into new experiences. This is all about experimentation, trying out something new, trying out something interesting, opening up these new doorways and opportunities in your life will be a huge theme of this shift to the North Node in Gemini. So what doorways in your life are you opening yourself up to when you get to this North Node in Gemini? What things are you willing to try and experience and experiment with? Where is your curiosity and your open-mindedness going to take you in this new destiny space of information and social connections and opportunities? And there's something to say about this also, where Sagittarius sort of has to seek far out and venture to these unknown spaces, where Gemini tends to connect to what is familiar, to what really resonates within the familiar surroundings. So there is something to say about this North Node in Gemini that is about connecting to your soul family as well. So what is familiar, what actually resonates on a soul level for you? What social connections serve you? Are you connecting to people who don't serve you? Are you connecting to people? Are you changing yourself to fit in with a crowd that does not fit into your destiny and into what is in true connection with your soul and who you are? So this is also about finding what is familiar. But what is familiar on a soul level, on a destiny level? And you will see a lot of faded connections as far as friendships, relationships, of really finding with this North Node in Gemini of what is familiar to your soul. Now, after this, on May 11th, Saturn stations retrograde at 1 degree of Aquarius. So we only went 1 degree into Aquarius, and now Saturn is moving back again. And so we spent a little bit of time here with this Saturn retrograde in Aquarius, and there is something about this energy about innovation and about all of the collective of what this new space is going to look like. So we caught a glimpse of that. Now Saturn's going retrograde at 1 degree Aquarius, so it is going to move back into Capricorn, where we're going to sort of see these old karmic patterns, these old cycles, these old belief systems, these old scenarios that is truly familiar to our soul, or are we doing something that is off course of where we should be? So we're going to be looking and seeing, okay, are we actually doing what serves us, or are we sort of in the illusion of believing that we're doing what serves us? And so that will happen, and that will be an interesting time of really having to reflect. You definitely at that time don't want to emotionally react or do anything that is a rash decision. You definitely want to be patient and take your time and really evaluate things in your life to see, okay, does this serve me? Does that serve me? Check the boxes off to see if all these things actually serve you or if they don't. Now on May 13th, Venus goes retrograde in Gemini at 21. So 2019 was the off year. We didn't see Venus retrograde. We saw it the year before, and we sort of closed that chapter with the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio that we're currently finishing out right now. And so this is something new, of something that's very unfamiliar about stepping into this Venus retrograde. And it's happening in Gemini, where Venus is comfortable in Gemini, but with this retrograde, there is something about relationship issues and communication issues. It's definitely a time where you don't want to get married unexpectedly, get into any kind of contracts, emotional contracts, any kind of scenarios that involve contracts or agreements, or really conflicts that involve communication or that involve signing off on during this time. Situations in that relationship, any kind of difficulties. If you're not in a relationship, it's not the best time to get into a relationship. You definitely want to be cautious. Relationships during a Venus in retrograde, especially in Gemini, can definitely come up with some communication issues, some struggles around communication and clarity and understanding within the relationship, and definitely some challenges that can bring sort of these relationships to a quick end. So Venus in retrograde is definitely a time where you want to reflect not only on relationships but also on yourself. Venus also deals with self-love. What do you value? What is your self-worth? What are the things that you need to work on in your own space? Do you love yourself? And so definitely we want to look at that, and especially in Gemini, we're looking at your thought process. Are you thinking positively? Are you thinking in a way that serves you, in a way that says, I love myself? If not, then there's some work there that needs to be done during this Venus retrograde. The next day, May 14th, Jupiter stations retrograde in Capricorn at 27. And so now we're in a Jupiter retrograde where we're seeing Jupiter's already at a challenging position in Capricorn, but now this is in retrograde where the doorways are literally starting to close. The doorways are starting to definitely close in on us, where we're seeing very, very small opportunities and possibilities. This is really a time where, with this Jupiter retrograde, you really want to take the time to figure out what is your plan, what is your vision, what are your goals, how are you going to achieve the things in your life. You don't want to jump into any kind of radical action with Jupiter retrograde. A lot of misfortune and small opportunities and closed doorways at that time, especially in its fall position of Capricorn. So you definitely, Capricorn is saying, we have these opportunities, but we need to do the work. So you definitely want to come up with a concrete plan. You want to come up with a vision and achievable goals of where you're going when Jupiter stations retrograde. Now, I normally don't talk about the asteroids so much unless we're dealing with Chiron. But this time around, there's something about Pallas Athena going retrograde in Capricorn on June 2nd. So on June 2nd, we're seeing this asteroid dealing with wisdom, dealing with higher knowledge and understanding. And there's something about this going retrograde that definitely, especially in Capricorn, where we're seeing Capricorn is a very wise and mature sign. And so there's something about this where you really want to evaluate where you are and what you understand in your life. Do you have the true wisdom and the true keys to your success and your accomplishment in your life? If not, you definitely want to seek out some counsel and some advice. And definitely when you are connecting to any kind of teacher or master, making sure that they resonate with you and that they understand what your goal is of what you're going to accomplish. But this is definitely going to be a time of evaluating, okay, what do I really understand? What do I really know? Where does my true wisdom lie? And am I really mature? Am I really well-rounded in this area or in that area of my experience? And if not, this is where some counsel, some help, some seeking of advice is definitely going to be helpful as we are moving into this high frequency space once again with this Saturn Jupiter conjunction in Aquarius that is huge. We're talking about Jupiter and Saturn, these giant planets, these gas giants, right? The biggest ones, massive, coming into this huge conjunction in Aquarius, which there's something to say about this age of Aquarius that is definitely moving us into a higher frequency, a higher dimension. And so this is very, very important that you understand and that you know, okay, this is where I am well-rounded, this is where I'm not. So this is where I really need to look at the counsel or the advice that I need to definitely work and improve in that area of my life. Now on June 5th, we have a full moon. So this is going to be the second prenumbral lunar eclipse. It's going to happen in Sagittarius at 15 degrees. So this is happening in this new nodal space of Sag. And remember that this is not like last year of 2019 where we had these partial lunar eclipse. This is a prenumbral lunar eclipse, so there's something very powerful and very magical about this release point that is highlighted by Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is trying to open us up to the possibilities and to the opportunities. And again, with this Jupiter and Capricorn energy, this is very challenging. This is very difficult, especially in retrograde. On top of that, so Sagittarius is sort of here reminding us that, okay, it's challenging, it's difficult, but you have the strength to persevere and move through it, to move through these obstacles, to move through these difficulties, to do the practical work, to climb the ladder to success. So this will be a major release point of really, where is your faith at? What do you believe in? And what do you know that you are capable of succeeding? Where are you willing to aim that Sagittarius arrow? What doorway of opportunity are you moving into? And it requires a lot of work, as Jupiter, yes, is in its fall position in retrograde, but there is something about this where you kind of have to believe in yourself to be able to push through these doorways and these opportunities. Now on June 10th, Uranus comes into a semi-sextile with Chiron. And we saw this before. This is highlighting this again about this falling away of the ego and really stepping into what truly serves us and what is really of the utmost value to us in our lives. So this is a very important transit that is popping up again to remind us, okay, we need to be doing what fulfills our soul. We need to be stepping into this new divine high frequency space that is in true alignment and true value of who we are, and sort of move out of this old space that is connected to ego. Again, Chiron in Aries is the falling away of the ego. And I have my Gemini cup here. So we continue, and on June 18th, Mercury has another retrograde in Cancer. And so we saw this in the summer of 2019. Now we're looking at this again, though, with these different aspects. Again, the North Node is off of Cancer. And so we're sort of in this different space of Mercury retrograde in Cancer, and it has some major planets back in Capricorn opposing it, these massive planets. So there's something about this Mercury retrograde that's very small. We tend to make a huge deal over Mercury retrograde, right? We tend to make this huge deal over these communication issues, these little things that don't go our way. But there's something about this Mercury retrograde on June 18th that's very small. And so this is asking you, are you going to look at the small things? And it's in Cancer, where it's very emotional. It's dealing with what we're sensitive to and what we're in tune with as far as emotions And so it's asking you, are you going to get emotional and sensitive over these little things that don't really add up to these bigger things in our lives? And that takes us to June 21st, where we are moving into the summer solstice of this new moon solar eclipse in Cancer at 0 degrees. So, no, this is not a solar eclipse in Gemini. We have passed that point. So, this is a little different. This new moon closing out this and starting this new energy in Cancer. And so this brings us back to this old 2019 space of asking us what is divine and what is the true connection to our souls. What is secure? What is home? What is divine? And in a couple of days after that, we have a Neptune retrograde in Pisces at 20 degrees. That is something that we went through majorly in 2019 of needing to look at the things in our lives and see what is truly magical and what is an illusion. What are the things that we're sort of deceiving ourselves or making up stories about, and what is the true magic, what is the true spiritual connection. And that takes us to June 25th, where Venus does station direct. So Venus comes out of retrograde at 5 degrees Gemini, where this Venus is still in shadow. It still has a long way to go. Remember that Venus went retrograde at 21 and it's at 5, so it has to get past 21. But as it is moving forward in Gemini, there's something about Venus and Gemini that is opening up the doorway to have fun, positive experiences. This is where you might see new relationships, new experiences in life. This benefic energy of Venus is opening the doorway to what Gemini has to offer in the curiosity and in the intellectual openness and experiences that are coming in for you in your life. And on June 30th, we see Jupiter come into conjunction with Pluto again at 24. And so again, there's something about having to go through the intensity, having to go through what is difficult, what is challenging, and pushing through that to get to the open doorways. And then that takes us to Saturn retrograde in Capricorn. And so Saturn is going to move back now officially. Remember that Saturn went retrograde at 1 degree of Aquarius. So this is Saturn officially going back into Capricorn, where now these old belief systems, these old have done things in the past, are coming back to test you. Of, are you going to go back to that, or are you really serious about going forward? Saturn's very serious. Saturn's a very mature, very wise sign. And so it's asking you, are you really mature enough to keep going with what you know serves you and what you know is of true value to you, or are you really going to go back to these old Capricorn cycles of these old systems, these old rules, these old structures that aren't really in sync with who you are? And where we're going to stop in this first half is at July 5th with the third full moon prenumbral lunar eclipse that is in Capricorn at 13 degrees. So this is the third one. And there's something about this energy where it is this release point for all of these, again, Capricorn old systems and structures and cycles. And so there's something about this where Okay, now we are coming into needing to step into what really serves us, what really values us, what is really truly connected to who we are. And as we move out of that, out of these old systems, it creates new systems and new structures that better serve us and better complete our lives. So that is the first half of this 2020 horoscope. And so I will get into the second half in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. If you are new to this channel, you've never been on this channel before, and you enjoyed this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well as the little notification bell next to it so that you don't miss out on any new content. And again, feel free to leave your Mercury